Have you ever wondered why they call it a P bass? Well, the P is short for precision, and the precision refers to the frets that were on it, because at the time everyone was using upright basses that didn't have frets. And you can look it up because it's literally just on the Wikipedia page. I don't know why people argue with me on this. And it makes sense because having frets on your guitar means that you can precisely play each note. But as big of a deal as the P bass was, few things in bass guitar have been as dramatic as the guy who took the frets right back off. No, not that guy. This guy. This is Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones, and he's the earliest example that we know of somebody ripping the frets out of their electric bass to make it fretless, and he did this to try and eliminate fret buzz on a really crappy bass. And not only did it work, but he created a whole new instrument out of what was already kind of a brand new instrument, because this was 1961, just 10 years after the P bass made its debut. Now, lots of other people experimented with fretless bass throughout the 60s, but it didn't get a lot of traction until this guy, Jaco Pastorius, in the early 70s. What made Jaco's approach so interesting and different was that he approached the instrument as a melodic instrument, not just as a supporting instrument. His virtuosic playing with Weather Report took bass out of the back pocket and into the front and center, as well as inspired a whole new generation of bass players. So what does that mean for you, the fretless curious? Well, let's talk about what fretless is good for, we'll get into some technique tips, and if you're sold on it, I'll give you some recommendations if you want to pick up a fretless of your own. Like any other musical instrument, fretless bass is just one way to make sounds, and because it is a bass, you can still do bass things with it, playing bass in a supporting role like Sting did. But as we've seen with Jaco, fretless bass can be really expressive and almost vocal in its quality. Jaco's characteristic sound is really nasally and trebly, which makes it really stick out even when the whole band is playing. The basic formula for this sound is 5 things. It's flat wound strings, it's soloing the bridge pickup, plucking directly over the bridge pickup, rolling the tone off, and using techniques like the squiggle to really sell it as a more vocal sound. Now, because your notes are not being decided by the frets, you have the option of all the notes in between the notes. That means that the note is going to happen wherever your finger is, for better or for worse. What you'll want to pay close attention to here is your intonation. Now, intonation is something that we talk a lot more in the context of setting up your bass, which is no less important on a fretless, but what this is in reference to here is your accuracy as you're playing notes on the fretboard. Too far behind the fret and it'll be flat, and too far ahead of it and your note will be sharp. The bass that I'm using in these examples is a lined fretless, so those lines show you exactly where the note's supposed to happen, so you can put your finger right dead center on that. But where that's pretty forgiving on a fretted bass, on a fretless, not so much. Fretless bass demands accuracy because things will just sound a little off if you don't get it just right. I learned this the hard way when I was tracking bass for my Rock Operas album. I was trying to play this part with chords way up high, and no matter how much I tried, I could not get it in tune because playing fretless bass in this way is really hard. One really great tip that I got from Denson, our resident bass expert, is to try practicing in the dark or playing blindfolded because you're going to be relying more on your muscle memory and your ears to get things just right. Incidentally, Denson just put out his own video on fretless bass, and if you want to take this a little further, I highly recommend checking his video out. So that's all well and good for playing lead bass, but what if you want to just play normal bass with a fretless? Well, you're in luck because I've got a whole Spotify playlist that I put together of great examples of fretless being played in more pop contexts. You can go check that out. So that should give us plenty of inspiration in different ways that fretless can be used in different kinds of music. So if you're sold on it, let's talk about what kind of a bass you should buy for yourself. Now, the bass that I've been using in this video is a Sire V5 that I borrowed from our good friend Low End Lobster, and this bass is special. There's some magic to it, and it's just one of the better basses that I think I've ever played. However, it is definitely not stock. A lot of mods going on here, but I will say that the neck on this thing is really, really great, and that hasn't been changed at all. Sire also makes a PJ fretless, which is kind of hilarious when you think about what the P stands for in that context, but it is no less great for your fretless needs. I would recommend getting a bridge pickup though. I think that's really where the sauce is for fretless basses. And I know like Sting's whole thing was the fretless P bass, but I just really feel like the textures that you get out of the bridge pickup are just so classic for fretless bass, almost to the point where it's a necessity. Now if you're on a bit more of a budget, Harley Benton does make this bass, which got a 5-claw rating from Lobster, and will only set you back $200, so that might be worth looking at too. You may also remember a video I did not that long ago about the Guitar Flatter, which is a conversion kit specifically made for Fender jazz basses. So you can just slap this thing on the neck, see how it works for you, and this will usually only set you back $50 to $80 depending on if they're on sale or not. Whichever way you end up going, I do highly recommend getting yourself a lined fretless. The unlined fretboard is really clean and sexy, but they are kind of the Elden Ring of basses. They're just much more difficult to play. So if this is your first experience with fretless, just make it easy on yourself and get a lined fretboard. Anyway, that is about it from me on fretless basses, but how impressed are you that I got through this whole video without once saying more?